In this lab, I'm going to show you how to customize your board and sprint permissions. We'll create a new permission scheme, customize it, and then associate it with a project. We'll troubleshoot board and sprint permissions, and then finally we'll look at notification schemes. Let's start the first exercise. I need to be an admin for this, so I've already logged in as Dakota's user. Let's have a look at the Rocketeers app permission scheme. So here you can see it's using the default software scheme. So let's take a closer look at that scheme. Looking at the various permissions, the important one for the board and a project is the browse permissions. Without this, you can't see the project's issues. At the moment, any logged in user has browse permissions where this scheme is used, and you can see it's used in 8 projects. Another important permission is the manage sprints one, and here you can see that this permission is also granted to any logged in user. For ranking issues and adding issues to a sprint, the two permissions are the edit and schedule permissions. And here again you can see that the permissions are granted to any logged in user. So looking at this permission scheme, it's fairly open with pretty much every permission granted to logged in users. There's one more permission that's important for users who need to create and share boards, and that's a global permission. Let's have a look at that. The permission I'm referring to is the Create Shared Objects permission. And as you can see here, it's granted to anyone with access to Jira Core, Jira Software, and Jira Service Desk via these groups. Okay, I need to navigate back to the permission scheme as I need to make a copy of the default software one so I can edit it. The teams in space requirements say that we want a customized permission scheme, so I'm going to copy the default software scheme. You can see it at the top here. Okay, let's edit the copy. I'm going to change its name to Dev Permission Scheme. And change the description. Click Update. Now let's start customizing this scheme. So to do that, I need to click on Permissions. Remember, the requirements state that only Scrum Masters and one backup person should be able to manage sprints. Also, back in the second lab we added Alana and Max's users to the project administrator's role for the Rocketeers app project. That means we can use the administrator's role in this permission scheme to satisfy the requirement. First, I'll modify the Manage Sprints permission, so I'll click on Edit. So I need to make sure that the project role setting is selected and then choose Administrators and click Grant. Now you can see the permission has been granted here. I still need to remove the logged in user grant, so I'll click on Remove. Okay, now you can see the permission is only granted to the project administrator's role. Now I need to associate the permission scheme with the project, so to do that I need to go back to the project. I need to click on Actions and then use a different scheme. I need to select the scheme I just created, Dev Permission Scheme, and click Associate. Now you can see the Manage Sprint permission has changed. Let's check this. So I'll log out and log back in as Alana, who is in the Administrator project role. Okay, now I need to navigate to the dev board. I need to be in the backlog view. Let's create a sprint. Okay, so that sprint has been created here. You can see it, dev sprint number 2. I don't need this, so I'm going to delete it. So now let me check as a developer. So I'll log out again and log back in as Kevin Campbell. Again, let's get to the Rocketeers app project and have a look at the backlog. Okay, we're in the backlog. Here you can see that the Create Sprint button is disabled, so this looks like the permissions are working correctly. Let's move on to the second exercise. So I'll log out of Kevin's account. In this exercise, we're going to troubleshoot board and sprint permissions. Let me log in as another developer, Cassie with C. Owens. I want to look at the Rocket Engineering project backlog here, so let me navigate to that project. Here you can see the backlog issues and the sprint issues. Cassie has been asked to work on issue RE2, so needs to add it to the active sprint. Let's drag RE2 up to the sprint. Confirm. Okay, this has given me an error which looks like the schedule issue permission problem. I'll log out again and log back in as Dakota. Let's look at the Rocket Engineering project permissions. You can see that this project is using the RE permission scheme. Let's quickly use the permission helper to check this issue out. So click on the scheme, click on permission help. I select Cassie as the user. The issue is RE2, and the permission I want to check is schedule. Click on submit. This confirms what the error message we saw earlier was saying. The problem is that Cassie doesn't have the schedule issues permission. This permission helper is a great tool for troubleshooting permission problems and can save you a lot of time having to manually check the permission schemes and permissions within them. Let's have a look at who does have the schedule issues permission. Find schedule issues. Here we can see that permission is granted to users who are in the members project role. Let me show you what the grant options are. Edit. So here you can see the full list. Now we could fix this by adding Cassie's user to the permission or add the group she's into to the permission as well. However, as there is already a project role, the simple fix is to add her to that role. Using project roles in your permission scheme is very powerful and means that you can share a scheme between projects, and because the permission is granted to a role, each project can have a different set of users in that role. Project admins can manage role membership, so as a Jira admin you can reduce the amount of work you need to do for managing access to projects. Let's have a look at the project roles. So here you can see the full list of project roles. Let's go back to the Rocket Engineering project and have a look at the roles. Here you can see the project roles and the users in those roles. I need to add Cassie's user to the members role. Click on Add. Now you can see she's now listed in the members project role. I'm going to check using her user again, so I'll log out and log back in as her user. Let's go back to the Rocket Engineering project and look at the backlog. Okay, let's see if I can drag RE2 into the active sprint now. Confirm this as the scope is changing. And yes, so that's fixed this problem. Now let's have a look at the active sprint. So I'll click on the active sprint button. For the next problem, I need to log in as one of the Teams in Space customer reps, Terry with T. Chaplin. Terry wants to see what bugs are being worked on in the Rocket Engineering project. So let's go have a look at the Rocket Engineering projects board. That's funny. Terry doesn't see the board, but he does see the issues. Okay, let's try and figure out why this board is not visible to Terry. Again, I need to be an admin, so I'll log back in as Dakota. Thinking about this, Terry can see the issues in the project, so that means he has browse permissions for the project. So the problem has to do with the board. Let's check and look at its configuration. So Magic Projects, Rocket Engineering, we're in the board, configure. Okay, here you can see that the board is only shared with the Jira Software users group. Let's check what groups Terry is in. Here you can see that Terry is in the Jira Service Desk users group and not in the Jira Software users group. This explains why you can't see the board. Now, if this was a real-life problem, I would check with the project leads and board admins as to why this board is only being shared with members of the Jira Software users group, as there may be a business reason for limiting who can view this. It's always best to check with the stakeholders before making any changes. However, let's assume there is no valid reason why this board should not be visible to users outside the Jira Software users group. So let's go back and edit the filter shares. Click on Edit Filter Shares. So I'm going to change the shares. I'm going to select Project, then Rocket Engineering, and then All, and add that. So I no longer need the Jira Software Users Group share, so I'm going to remove that by clicking on the trash can. So this means that anyone with access to the project, so users with the browse permissions, will be able to see this board. Click Save. Okay, so that's been saved. Let's check as Terry again. Let's navigate back to the project. And I still can't see the board. What's going on here? I need to do a little more investigation, so I'll log in as Dakota again. So I know that the board's sharing permissions are okay. What else could this be? Let me have another look at Terry's user. Okay, I think I know what the problem here is. Looking at Terry's application access, he only has Jira Service Desk listed in the applications. He's not a Jira Software user. The Agile boards are provided by Jira Software, so users who do not have application access to Jira Software will not be able to see any of the functionality provided by it, such as Agile boards. Again, in the real world, you would need to research if there were any business reasons why Terry wasn't a Jira Software user and if it was okay to give him user access to Jira Software. Also remember that by granting Terry access to Jira Software, you would also consume one user license for that application. However, as this is a non-production system, I'm going to assume it's okay to make Terry a Jira Software user. So all I'm going to do is simply add Terry to the Jira Software user group, which gives him access to the Jira Software functionality like boards. I'll quickly show you why adding him to this group would make him a Jira Software user. Let me show you the application admin pages. On this page, you can see the groups that are being used to grant application access to Jira Service Desk, Jira Software, and Jira Core. You can see the Jira Software users group here, so adding any users to this group will make them a Jira Software user, and as I mentioned, will use up a user license. We've got plenty to spare here, so we're okay. So let's go back to Terry's user again. So let's add him to the appropriate group. Click Join Selected Groups. So you can now see he's got Jira Software listed in the application. So let's log out and check again. Let's go back to the Rocket Engineering project. And we can now see the board. Cool. So to recap what we did here, in order for Terry's user to see the board, he needed the following. He needed browse permissions for the project, he needed to be added to the filter share, and finally, he needed application access to Jira Software. Let's move on to exercise 3. In this exercise, we're going to look at the notification schemes. The teams in Space developers have been complaining that they're getting too many email notifications, with the major problem being the notifications to reporters of bugs. So they've set a requirement that reporters should only get notified when an issue is resolved, closed, reopened, or deleted. I'll need to log in as Dakota. So let's look at the notification schemes. Here you can see the list of notification schemes that are available. I'm going to copy the default notification scheme so I can edit that. Click Copy. And there it is. Let's edit it and change the name. I'm going to call it Dev Notification Scheme. Give it a description. And click Update. Okay, so let's look at the notifications. Here you can see all the events that trigger a notification. And you can see the reporter is pretty much configured to get an email for every event. The requirements say that only the resolved, closed, reopened and deleted events should trigger an email to reporter. So I'm going to remove the reporter from all the events except for these. Well, let's check this again. So reporter, issue updated. We don't need that. So resolved, issue closed, issue reopened, issue deleted, and the reporter has been removed from all other events. Okay, so now let's go look at the notifications for the Rocketeers app project. So this is currently using the default notification scheme which is shared by 13 projects. So let's change this. So click on Actions and use a different scheme. Select the Dev Notification Scheme and click Associate. You can now see that the project is using this new scheme. So let's test this. So I'll search for an issue. So there's only one, Dev1. You can see it's assigned to Max and that the user Dakota is the reporter. So I'm going to remove Dakota as a watcher, as watchers still get many of the notifications. Similar to the permission helper, there's also a notification helper. So let's use that. So that's hidden away in admin. Click on notification. So the user we want to check is Dakota. And let's try a few events. So issue created. So Dakota doesn't get a notification for that. Issue resolved. She does get a notification for that, so that's correct. So this looks correct. So that's it for this lab. Back to the course.